I'm in Afghanistan in the Hindu Kush, and we're in the middle of a remote part of Afghanistan. When we landed our helicopters on this operation, we met people who thought we were Russian. What I do remember about this circumstance is that a lot of these kids were scared. They were intimidated. They had never seen a Westerner. These were some of the most happiest people I ever saw, but also some of the poorest. There's nobody in the world more oppressed than children in third world countries.
Hey guys, Nick here with Fieldcraft Survival. Today we're going to do a story behind the photo with Mike Glover. So Mike, you want to tell us a little bit about this photo? This is actually what got me to follow you and started my whole relationship here at Fieldcraft.
Yeah. So Nick, what's your Instagram, by the way?
Nroush Photo.
Nroush ROUSH photo.
Yeah, one word.
Yeah. Nick's photos, dude, some of the best photography I've ever seen. And
thank you.
I remember Nick hit me up and you had talked to me about photography stuff.
Yeah.
And now you do photography for Fieldcraft, which is cool. This is one of my favorite pictures. I mean, it's actually, how do you do that? Yeah. Wait a minute. Point out, right here. Yeah. So that picture right there is a picture that was taken of me in Afghanistan. A lot of people think, hey, Mike, you took a lot of pictures, man. Look, I wish I would have took a lot of pictures. You have to remember, most of my pictures, I'm in the picture, and there was no such thing as selfies back then. So I'm not taking the picture. I always had team guys in my companies, on my detachments, that took pictures, and I happened to be in a lot of them because they took pictures of everybody. So in this case, same exact deal, where I'm in Afghanistan in the Hindu Kush, and in a small classroom. That classroom, by the way, man, it's about 100 by 100 square foot. And all those desks are handmade, and we're in the middle of a remote part of Afghanistan that the world has never seen. There's no exaggeration to that. This picture was taken near a place called Kamdesh, which is on the northeastern border of Afghanistan and Pakistan. When we landed our helicopters on this operation, we met people who thought we were Russian. Just to give you some context, the Russians were there in the 80s. I believe pulled out in the early 90s, and they had never seen a foreigner. You're talking about places that look like Swiss villages because they're made of stone and wood, and the most majestic, beautiful regions that you've never seen again. And when we landed there, we landed a UH-60. In this case, we didn't use Task Force 160. I think it was a standard Black Hawk. And we landed in the middle of a field and got out, and we were doing a meet and greet, essentially, a key leader engagement where we were shaking hands with people who were the leadership, the tribal elders of this particular village. This village is near a village in Kamdesh, and we decided to take a patrol walk along this small creek that fed into the Konar River. The Konar River is historically and famously known as the river that Osama bin Laden trekked. This is near Tora Bora. This is near where this whole war kicked off in Afghanistan right after September 11th. So what I do remember about this circumstance is that a lot of these kids were scared. They were intimidated. They had never seen a Westerner, and I had a gun, but they don't even know what a gun is. You might see a single-barreled shotgun, a British .303, and maybe an AK-47 in these remote regions. And so you have to think about the context of from these kids' perspective of what that feels like, what that looks like. I can't imagine. I must have looked alien to them. The one reason why I could build this rapport, and this is from 2004, 2005 time period, is because I'm near, or maybe in, a province called Nuristan, which happens to be bordered near China. So there's a lot of Chinese influence in this region, in this area. I mean, Nick looks like he should be in part of that country. Maybe in that school. Maybe that was you, man. You grew up there.
Maybe, yeah.
But if you think about it, the innocence of children, you take the innocence of children in third world countries, and it's a completely different experience for them. They don't understand technology because they have none. They don't have electricity. The running water that flows through their homes on the creek is the same running water they use the restroom in, that they bathe in, that they source for water in, everything hopefully downstream or upstream, not downstream. But these people had nothing. I remember we went into a couple of the guys' houses that lived in this area, and you're talking about dirt floors, mud walls, no technology, and the few little things they had, their most prized possessions, were locked away in these rudimentary, handmade often boxes. So it's not like you would see things that you would recognize, like stuff that you buy off Amazon. I mean, in this particular picture, you could see, if you look at it closely, all the clothing they're wearing was handmade. I could tell you the kid that's on my left, on your right, as you're looking at the picture, is wearing traditional garb. We call them man jams because it's like man pajamas. They wear long sleeve clothing because it protects them from the heat. We're also at elevation. We're right off the Hindu Kush mountain range near K2, one of the most significant ranges in the world. And then you could see the dyed clothing. That's hand dyed. All of that is handmade. Some of it coming from Chitral in Pakistan, some of it coming across the border from China. But the overwhelming majority of all that is their prized possessions. They don't have a closet full of clothes like we do. Man, I remember how shocked they were. But as soon as I translated why we were there and told them we weren't there to hurt them, we were there to help them, it was a significant impact. I will tell you, one of the most memorable moments I had in Afghanistan was right after this picture, when 3 of these girls that were in the school went into their garden and picked me flowers, which is a big deal in this country. In a country full of war, famine, all the worldly problems that we'd never deal with in America, and they picked their most prized possessions for me in a bouquet of flowers and gave it to me. I shoved it into my kit. It was almost like I thought about the Vietnam War, where it was like peace, love. It was impactful because these girls were just trying to show their appreciation in whatever way they could, and in this case, it was plucking flowers from their garden. I was 25 in this picture. I'm wearing some janky kit. I mean, we didn't have a lot of kit. We didn't have Cry Precision because it didn't exist back then for us at this time. I'm wearing desert camouflage uniform. This picture was taken on a Nikon CyberShot camera. I remember that. I got a Trijicon optic that's not even made anymore, I don't believe, that uses the sun to refract a prism red dot that you could utilize during the day without using a battery. Why? Because we did sustained operations where we couldn't carry a whole bunch of batteries, like a rucksack full of batteries operating on our feet. I mean, we could, but we didn't have that many options back in the day. I'm also wearing a tactical Taylor chest rig that I had when I was in Special Forces training that worked really well. That plate carrier that I'm wearing was made in China. I bought it at a Chinese homemade kit place on the base that we were at in Bagram, and brought it back to my fire base. I'm wearing a bandana, a blue one, because I'm a member of the Bloods gang, or the Crips. The Crips are, I don't even know. I don't know which is I can't even pretend to be gangster because I don't even know. I'm wearing that not because I'm affiliated with a gang, but because I could use it to mask my face from the dust, because that place is a sand. Obviously, it's all made of sand, but it's like a sand bowl. And when you're driving in a vehicle or even standing around, you're catching a full face full of dust. I do have Peltors on, and I'll tell you this. from somebody who's worn Peltors my entire military career, the reason I'm wearing Peltors is not because I think I'm going to get in a gunfight, which in this area, by the way, was very dangerous. It's because I could hear better of the surrounding area because they work off of enhancing the audible sound to my ears, increasing my capability. That's why I wore them all the time. I'm wearing a Jeep baseball cap, which my dog winded up destroying a year later. I still have it. It's just kind of janky. And I was in my happy spot, man. I was happy. Like breaking bread with civilians, with citizens, and doing that kind of thing was my favorite thing. I think in the caption, Julian, if you could blow up the caption, I can't read that far. But it says, the real enemy is our loss of perspective with what bad, evil, wrong, oppression, tyranny, and hate really is. I remember entering the school picture. The children were fearful and anxious. How could they not be? They lived in the most remote, mountainous range in the world, the Hindu Kush, ravaged by war. How would the evil Americans act? What evil things would they do? I reached out my hand and shook their hands and greeted them in their native language, Pashto. I laughed with them and assured them we wouldn't hurt them, we would protect them. We were brought together in a common language of love and empathy and a universal bond. We laughed, we smiled, and they learned. I see all the hate, all the anger, all the divisiveness tearing us apart, all driven by algorithms, optimization, machine learning, and turning your attention into profits. We need to get back to basics, back to love, and back to helping each other. At the end of our days, nothing will matter but love. And look, this isn't me being all mushy, but that's the reality. When you're living a raw life like that, you don't have anything else to focus on. That's how we used to live, by the way, a primal position on the planet. And our hierarchy of incentives and priorities of needs and wants wasn't technology. It wasn't our Instagram accounts. It was other people. So despite their looks, these were some of the most happiest people I ever saw, but also some of the poorest, and even in some cases most unfortunate based on the levels of oppression. There's nobody in the world more oppressed than children in third world countries. The adults can make decisions, they can do things about it, but children, completely different circumstance. Yeah, thanks for that one, Nick. I mean, that's a good one.
Yeah, thank you.
Give me some photography feedback on that.
So, well, yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. Obviously, like you said, it was a Nikon. What was this? Cybershot or something like that.
So it wasn't a Cybershot, but it was a Nikon.
Yeah. So
shoot, right?
yeah, like in terms of the technical aspects of a good photo, like there's just so you can take a great photo with no story, and people just you won't connect with it. Where like, yeah, this photo might not be great technically. There's a little bit of red eye. There's some noise. But the story behind it is just it's just what makes it great. And like all the memories that it brings back for you talking about it, it's a cool thing. It's one of the things I love about photography.
Yeah, it's a photography, by the way, is one of my favorite things. I am a closet photographer. I've been doing it my whole life. My first job was as a assistant developing photos, 35 millimeter photos or film. I remember everything about that picture, which is weird. I haven't seen it. I didn't know that you're going to pull up this photo until you just pulled it up. But so much of it comes back to me, even the smell of my uniform and the smells of the bread and all the things that were going on and their faces, man. That's why I do love photography. I mean, you do a great job of it at Fieldcraft because that's why we hired you, because we want to provoke those emotions in people and let people understand it's not about product placement. It's not about strategy. It can be about telling a story and bringing people closer together, which is why I wanted to be a war photojournalist when I got out of the military. I actually pursued it in a few ways. But yeah, man.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the reasons I've tried a lot of different types of photography, and I always come back to portraits because you just.
What's a portrait? What does that mean? Like a portrait?
Just a photo of a person where the person is the subject.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. You can take product photos with people in them, but I like portraits where you look at it and you feel a connection with that person that you don't even know. Yeah, it's just it can be pretty powerful.
Yeah, you see the kid, the goober on my left. I remember how excited he was because I told him to come stand next to me.
Yeah.
But he was nervous, but he was excited.
Yeah.
And then some of the kids responded well, but others didn't even know what it meant.
Yeah,
Some of these kids had never seen a camera. They're like, what do you mean?
They probably just saw the flash and
yeah, they translate. My translator told them, "Look at me, look at the camera." And I remember some of the kids were like, "What?" And like there were other kids like staring at the wall in that picture. Remember, this is one of the most illiterate and uneducated parts of the world, and these kids are at school in the middle of a war, trying to get education to make their lives better. I mean, how we change the world, it starts with kids and starts with education. I remember one thing that we wanted to do was assess the schools, because we had heard that the imams in these organizations, the religious leaders, were teaching these kids propaganda about the bad Americans and that the infidels need to be killed and they need to stand up and all this stuff. But it starts with the kids, because if you could, whether it's negative or positive, if you can impact and affect the kids, they will grow in this ideology, radical or not, and believe that as their core belief. And so we wanted to make sure it wasn't that. And in this particular case, it wasn't. So, yeah, really cool.
Very cool.
Cool.
Thanks, Mike.
No, thank you, man. We'll see you next time. I'm excited about if we get good feedback on this and people are like, hey, this is a thing. Maybe we'll do it again.
I'll dig through some more old photos. I love hearing stories.
Kevin Owens too would be a good one as well. He's got photos before, like they were etching it into stone. So he's got some photos of him in the Civil War. That'd be cool to see Kevin Owens holding the musket, back in the day when he was at Bull Run. Awesome. All right, guys.
I grew up right near Bull Run.
Did you?
Yep.
Oh, perfect then.
Yep.
All right, guys. Till next time. Thanks for that, Nick.
See ya. Thank you.